that's gonna get Anderson. We're gonna win. We're gonna win.
That's all
I'm
right.
gonna make sure you get a copy of it.
Yeah, thank you.
You gonna win.
Thank you. And I'm gonna send a picture of the phone.
Yeah.
All right, you on that old time band?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I got my mother.
Hey, Mom. How you doing? Awesome. You did an awesome job. Yeah. You got me wearing all this cash. Yeah. Yeah.
No, I'm not the restaurant.
No, that's not what people have. That's
Yeah.
Which one?
Alright, let's get into it. Oh, no, you're fine.
Oh, it does.
I'll send it already.
I agree.
See, do I need my notes? Alright. Wait a minute. Okay, so we're gonna get into it. Thank you so much for all of you all who are attending this just beautiful, intimate conversation with myself and with Kwame and with the team of Hot Sam. So thank you again for being here. Before we get into it, I think that it's important just to do some things with decency and order and what's appropriate. And so I want to, of course, honor God. And then I also want to honor Hot Sam's for allowing us to be here and host this talk. And then, I want to honor you, Kwame, just for who you are and who you are becoming, and for the acknowledgement of your transformation. I see it. And I love what you are doing and what you have been called to do with Movemental Ministries. I fully support what you are doing with Movemental Ministries and how you are just walking that out. And so I just thought it was important to honor you, and I recognize who you are as you journey back to destiny. And so we're just going to get into it. I've read Kwame's book, Off the Grid. I mean, I got highlighted, but I read it. I might not even get into it right there. I read his book, and I don't consider myself to be like an avid reader. I mean, I enjoy reading just things that are good. I mean, I enjoy reading as of lately, since I've been enjoying reading the Bible, I've been attracted to certain types of books that I can read easily. And so this was actually one of the books that I was able to read within maybe about 4 hours or so. And I think I told you it was that good that I couldn't put it down. I was just so captivated. I didn't know that you were just such a good, so not only are you a good, speaker and communicator, but even through communicating in terms of writing. So you are just a great writer and an author now, or not even now, and I'm going to get into that in a moment. And so, I read this book very quickly, and thank you so much. And I think not that I had questions, because you go into great depth, but I wanted to expound or elaborate or hear more. And I think it's important that people hear your voice. I mean, even though you are descriptive, in your writing, you can almost visualize being there. And so you had an amazing way with writing and with your words. But so that's why we're here, to go beneath the book. I just wanted have an opportunity to expound and maybe it might not even be everybody. I like to go deep. For people who know me, I like to just dig. I have more questions. And so, this is candid though, and we're just going to chat briefly. Before we do that, I want to know, a lot of people know things about you, believe they know things about you. What is it that people might not know about you? This could be anything. What is it something that we might not know about you, Kwame?
Wow. Before I just answer that question straight up, I think that first let me just thank you, Lauren, and Hassan for doing this. I think this is good practice. I'm believing that when the world gets the book, these might take place a little bit more often, particularly as it relates to our criminal justice system, both in the state and the federal. That people need to understand what they are. I don't think people do. When you see somebody in the paper got 28 years, 30 years, you just think they did something really bad. You don't understand the process that got them that time. I've had 3 lifers as sellers in prison. One, 83 grams of crack when he was 19 years old, and when I met him, he was 51. Another, for 2 dime bags of marijuana, and he got a life sentence because they put him in a conspiracy, 2K1. You got to understand the federal rules and how they work. He got a life sentence. He was the angriest person I've ever met in my life because at 23 years old, he went to a prison. And he and I are the same age. He's 51 right now. And so he's still there. And that's, when you see the draconian sentencing, the selective and the malicious prosecution, and you start to see it and understand it for yourself, then it's not about personality. So I say that all to say, you heard so much about Kwame Kilpatrick. And some of it, quite honestly, was very true. But a whole lot of it was just not. I've been knowing Freddie Crime since I was about 6, 7 years old. And, he'd be out there talking, man, that ain't him, man, But, I mean, it's a difference between who you meet outside and who you meet inside. One thing is that I really don't like to be around a lot of people. So when I come out and about, I'm playing a role that I learned to play from my mother and father when I was 8, 9 years old. I actually like being by myself. And most people don't understand that. I can sit in a room by myself. That's why when I went to prison, we're going to lock you in here. Blue. I said, okay, I can be in here. Nobody coming? Okay. I was in there reading, writing. I wrote this book, and I wrote the first book when I was locked up in about 6 months. And I wrote this one in about 6 weeks.
So did you all know that he had written another book? I did not. Right, I did not. And I thought that was interesting. And I had, actually somebody here, I think my friend Derek told me that he read it. What was it called? Surrender. Now, there is a distinct difference
Absolutely.
to me, even in terms of the cover of that book. I don't have it. I wish I had it to show you. Well, just like you on the cover, the way you were looking, the title, talk about the difference, because you wrote 2 books. I mean, this came out after you were released from prison, but a lot of it was written while you were there. But talk about the distinction of that book, Surrender, and this one, and like the difference in you, maybe, or.
It's both, and the difference is I wasn't surrendered, and I wrote a book called Surrender. So that was the major. I thought I'd surrendered.
Right.
And it takes, I spoke in Pontiac last night at a conference that she had. It was called Transformation and Growth. And when I got up to speak, I said the first step in transformation is something got to die. You got to die. If you really want to change, that's different than transformation. When a caterpillar goes into a cocoon, he doesn't come out a great caterpillar, an incredible caterpillar. No, he comes out a totally different thing, totally different substance, totally different look, totally different abilities and opportunities, because the cocoon that he was in, something died, the caterpillar. and a butterfly was born. So that's the difference between change and transformation. Transformation in the Bible comes from metamorpho, which is a Latin word, which is where we get metamorphosis. And so that's the difference between surrendered and this book, Off the Grid. Surrendered was written by a dude that was just sad and mad. And it just so happened that God did an amazing thing. As soon as I put Surrender out, the court said, we're going to take all the money from it. So I never sold it past a month. It was out there 30 days. That's why you didn't know about it. And we had to pull it back because, they said they were going to take the money. We figured one day we'll put it out. When I got out, I definitely wasn't going to put it. I have a few hundred boxes of that in the garage in my mother's house, and it's probably going to never be sold because that book, I'm glad I wrote it, and this is why I wrote it, historical perspective. Those things that were happening in detail in 08, 09, I really have PTSD. I don't remember, and a lot of people think I'm being disrespectful when I see them out here in Detroit. Man, in 2008 we were such and such, and I'll be like, you don't remember my aunt with that? And they would actually show me a picture sometimes. And I don't remember. What I was going through here, y'all saw it. The pure profundity of the weight of all of that. I don't even remember a lot of it. I was waking up every day going through the motions. Cameras were everywhere. It was following my kids. It was death threats. It was all kind of stuff going on that you couldn't imagine. And I literally don't have any recollection. I went to counseling for the first time in prison with a Christian counselor. She was dynamic. She was from a place called Yukon, Oklahoma. She was crazy. And crazy. She was not, I told her she didn't follow any of the counseling rules. I saw this on TV. You're not a real counselor. But she was tailor-made for me. Because the first day, are you just going to politic me? Or are we going to get something done here and see what God has for you? Exactly what she said. I was like, hey, you don't know me. Yes, you do, Miss Kilpatrick. We're going to get something done here. Or we can just, I don't want to play with you. I said, you don't sound like a psychologist. But it's that kind of thing that's the difference between surrender and off the grid. A different guy wrote that.
So let's talk about this title, Off the Grid. What do we think of? Now I'm opening it up to you. What do we think of when we hear off the grid? What's just innately? Okay. Any other thoughts?
Loss of control. If you're in control of yourself and your perspective, and you just completely abandon it. You go off the grid, off the rails, so to speak. That's what I'm thinking.
Off the chain.
Off the chain. Okay. What was your intent in terms of titling this Off the Grid? And then I want to go to this subtitle, The Journey Back to Destiny. When you're talking about going back to something, it would suggest that somewhere along the line, you were not on that. You were not in alignment with that. So talk about this title, Off the Grid, and then this subtitle. And then, so it's kind of a couple questions in one, but you're going to touch them all. But talk about what was your hope in putting this out? What did you hope that people would receive from this? And then we gonna go in, and we just at the cover.
So you want me to do the off the grid first? And
yeah.
Then ask okay. Off the grid for me was a little bit of all those things, but for me it was, the old movies where they looking for somebody, and he goes off the grid. He's actually unable to be reached. They can't find him. They start looking in little towns for him. But he has no known last address. He's not using a cell phone. They cannot trace where. They know he's alive, but they don't really know where he is. And so he's gone off the grid, and they waiting for him to resurface. All of the Criminal Minds, I'm a Criminal Minds guy, on that show, they always waiting for him to resurface. He'll resurface again. He's got to do it. And that was what I said, off the grid. But off the grid was also like a wound, where it was dark, it was tight, it was horrible. My wife is pregnant right now, and she's due June 1st, and the baby just being there flipping around. And so we went and had an ultrasound, and he's in there he was balled up. he wants to stretch out. And, he's stretching out. So in stretching out, her cervix is getting, it's thinner and thinner and thinner. But he's stretching out, and that's how I felt. I felt that it was also a place that was not the norm, that was away from everything I knew. I had to learn how to live away from everything that I was used to and everybody. When you go off the grid, remember, you can't contact the people you know. You can't touch them. Because if you call them, you get them involved, they don't get them too. So it was a way, and the journey back to destiny, the destiny for Kwame Kilpatrick, it was always, from the time I was a kid, to be doing exactly what I'm doing right now. I thought it was to be married. Because, mamas, I never wanted to be anything else. I never wanted to be governor, councilman, congressman, senate. I didn't want to be president. I wanted to be the mayor. I met Kwame Young when I was 10 years old at the Newgate Mansion. I won a contest, region, we had region 5, region 3. I won the Black Studies contest, got to meet Kwame Young. And I walked up to him, and this meeting was all 30 to 45 seconds. But for me, it was like 20 minutes, right? I walked to the steps, they opened the door, and Kwame Young, but it was all people there. Region 1 winner was there, Region 2. We were all in line when my mother was with me. And I walked in the door, and he turned us around and took a picture. I still had that picture today. I'm looking like a deer in the headlights. I was looking at Kwame Young. He was telling me, look at the camera, big fella. And I was like, okay. I was like, Kwame Young. And he said, look at you. He shook my hand. He said, you could be mayor of the city of Detroit one day. Nah, that's why you got to be careful what you tell a kid. Because he told me that. I walked out of the Manugan Mansion, got to that Buick Regal my mother had, and told her, listen, I'm going to be the mayor of the city of Detroit. High school, picnics, my high school yearbook, if you look up the cast 88, which you're going to be doing in 10 years. I'm going to be the mayor of the city of Detroit at NFL. That was and so the dream job was that. So I didn't just lose the job. I lost everything that I ever thought I would ever be. And so off the grid was not just a place, it was a spiritual and soulful condition. I was gone. And so now my journey is to walk back into the destiny that God always had for me. Because I also had dreams as a kid of preaching. I didn't even really like preachers. I tell them that all the time. And so, Bishop Shear said, you're going to preach God's word. And I was like, man, that's what you do. I don't really. And that was always his plan. The mayor's job was to stop on the way to that destiny.
So in the book, you talk about kind of where we're going, journey back to destiny. You talk about your true identity and essentially who God called you to be, but you talk about it as being confusing and uncomfortable. And I want you to dig a little deeper into that in terms of just this calling and what was confusing, what was uncomfortable in terms of who you are truly called to be, which is what you're doing right now. The work with movemental ministries and what we're doing right now. And so talk about it being uncomfortable.
I think that all of us accept certain things about ourselves that turn out not to be true. We've heard horrible things about ourselves. You lazy, you fat, you ugly, you too light, you too dark, you're a woman, whatever it is, you're black. Whatever it is, we've accepted some real lies about ourselves. But we take those lies and we move our whole life based on them. So it develops certain things in us: pride, self-righteousness, sometimes fear. And so when you're being called out of it, when you're not the Detroit guy, this is only say I want to live. I ain't Detroit. I'm Detroit. I'm deep. I'm on Detroit. And when he started dealing with me, he showed me that you don't live here. That's uncomfortable. Where do I live? Nowhere. I don't have a home. I have a hometown. I don't have a home. That's uncomfortable. Because I was not only living in Detroit, I defined myself as Detroit. That's who I am. I'm Detroit. That's a whole identity thing that just was messed up. And then, I learned that the way you prove yourself as a man is you're able to conquer women. To be a man, you got how many women you knock down? And we being honest in here, that confusing thing that you put in a man or a little boy, that he gotta have sex with a bunch of women to be a man. And really, he's perpetuating a boy. It's a crazy thing to find out that all that time you was doing something and you actually were the person that was into you. That's uncomfortable to face truth about yourself. It's very uncomfortable to actually face certain truths. And so when I get into in the book is in the process that we got the fancy term in church called sanctification. It's really a process of being in a grind. Because every day you're forced to choose to be who you always been and be comfortable in it, or to be who you absolutely know to be the truth of what God has called you to be. And that ain't always comfortable. And I think in church we make it so melodic. And we make it wonderful. Oh, God, smile. No. He said, be by yourself. Stop going to talk to those people. But I like those people. Those are my best friends. Those are the people that I hang with. You get away from those people. Turn off the news. I haven't watched the news in 12 years. That was uncomfortable because for a long time, I didn't know what was going on. I felt like my information had to come from them. But I turned on, I haven't seen it still. Y'all know, I know exactly what's going on. I know you got a president. I know the Democrats and Republicans fight each other. I know the issues that are important, the death penalty, abortion, and all that stuff is going to still be. I know that they're going to put it on TV. I know Fox is doing the Republican angle, and MSNBC is doing the liberal angle, and CNN tries to play the middle, but they get more liberal. Right. I understand what's happening, and I don't have to even watch it. Right. Because the theater I used to play, I used to manufacture that. I used to run campaigns all over Michigan. I wrote literature for Al Qaeda that says we got to stop Detroit from taking our money, and did the commercial. And it was a black guy from Detroit that did it, but my candidate won up there, and that's all I needed him to do to be the Democratic leader. So I was the puppeteer. So I was a victim of it, also watching and feeding myself that. So when it all went bad in the press, I was believing what they said about me. And so it was uncomfortable for me not to be in Detroit. I didn't know what's going on. And then all of a sudden, it just wasn't. Now it's free. It's a freedom. It takes going through some horrific, profoundly uncomfortable moments to just get free. And so when people hit me on the internet now and say, man, I hate you. You did this. You're like, man, God bless you and your family. Right. And have a wonderful day. I mean, I used to go in. You hate me? What? Let me tell you what you got to say, man. Who are you anyway? I used to get involved in this nonsense. And my sons, they used to do it too, but we were all bound by what people were saying. And you had to free yourself from that. But the whole way I was a politician. What you all think mattered to my job, my family, my life. And so when Lauren asked me how was that important, that was just a few examples. But the most outstanding thing was just not being able to prove who I was to people. I'm a campaigner. As we grew up running campaigns, and we don't know how to do nothing else. I can go out here and run a campaign today still. I can go get a campaign. But now, we're going to put you in a 6x9, put a toilet in there, close the door and lock it. Run a campaign now. And I'm like, and then I'm reading papers, Kilpatrick, all out of options. I'm not out of options. I'm in there arguing with my
you took all the options.
Man, I'm looking in the mirror like, fool, you in here, who you arguing with? You know? So, I mean, all that stuff you read about and go in the cell, I had great conversations with myself. I had to learn who I am.
But I think that's interesting because you did. Now, I didn't follow the trial like that, but you tried to really go everywhere, the highest that you could go with this, right?
Supreme Court.
To the Supreme Court.
And they said stay in jail.
Right.
Yeah.
So you were really.
In Obama, he said stay in jail.
But let's talk about that because I think that that's interesting. And what do you think now about that? That you were so, there's a word that I can't, the fortitude that you really had to, persistence, determined to really, I don't know what it was, to prove or to, but what do you think now that it didn't work? And I'm talking about in retrospect. And I say that because if I was reading that, you go into depth about your trial.
and everything, that all the nuances of that. You go into detail in this book about that, but but it didn't work the way you had thought that it was going, and what you were trying. Talk about when you look at that now and all of that, because I see God's hand at work in that.
Absolutely.
But what do you see? When you look at it now and think about everything that you were trying and how hard you were trying to do it, and you still.
It was two things that worked. One, I was really there not only because of my own stupidity and the arrogance and sin, but also for the experience of everybody else. Nobody wins. 1.2% of the people in their kids. So I'm living with people who've had life sentences and been there 20 years. I'm literally living. He sleeps right there. He's lost everything, so there's no pity parties. It's incredibly difficult to have a pity party when you're living among. My first cellie was 25 years old with a life sentence and had already been there 7 years. And he got there at 18, and he gonna beat it. Jerry's gonna beat it, but Jerry's crazy. And he's crazy because he came out of a juvenile system. He was out 9 months and then committed a crime, and then he'll be there for the rest of his life unless some massive changes happen. But here it is. It's hard because he's a kid. When I tell you he's a kid, I watched him kill somebody, right? And right after he killed somebody, he came into the room and he said, "Hey, have you ever been to the BET Awards, man?"
Like it never happened. Oh my.
And we sat up and I said, "Man, you crazy." I talked about it. I said, "Man, what's wrong with you, man?" I said, "You out there, what's wrong with you?" He said, "Man, we gonna use you hungry." He was on to the next thing. But I had to see that because although I grew up in the neighborhood, I wasn't that close. They was over there doing that. We didn't live together. So I understand too a difference. This whole idea that everybody that's ever been in prison want everybody out, that's a lie. That's a lie. It's a lot of you want to stay right up here. You need to be right here. Yeah, I don't want them living next to you or my mom or nobody. They crazy. But at the same time, you see people who never had a chance. So I've been to South Africa and Greece, and I dined at the Champs-Élysées. I've been to Kenya and South Africa. I've been all over the world. I've been to the highest house. I spoke. So I can't sit in there like, oh, I lost my peace. I didn't get there. You got guys been there 18, 19, 20 years old. They've been there 15, 20, 25 years. Or they've been there 5 or 6 and they got 25, 30 to go. So the first thing is, it's normal to lose in that system. It's not normal to win. Winning is something that's like, oh my God, you won your appeal? What? That's like the whole unit, the whole jail know about a person winning their appeal, and we all go to that person, man, how you write your motion? We trying to see their motion. What did you put in there that we don't, and so.
I believe that it's no, but was it ever meant for you to really?
No, and that's the other part. The other part is a spiritual matter. God had to train me in a way that I absolutely had to know it had nothing to do with me of how I got out. How I made it through, how I got out, how I endured, how I didn't get hurt, how I was fed every day, how I was nourished by the word, how I got jobs, how I would receive favor. Everything that ever happened in that prison, both the state and the federal, everybody was talking about, he was locked up 7 years. I don't like how y'all got me just saying that. I did 18 months in the state, plus 39 days short of 8 years in the feds. So y'all forget that I was in the state prison too. And then in the federal prison, it wasn't 7 years, it was the 7th year because 39 more days, it would have been 8 years. And so this was a long, Jelani and Jaleel, they get so mad. Man, that was in the state grade, high school, they know everything I missed, right? You missed that here, you missed that too. Oh man, the prom, you missed that too. So I missed everything, is what Jonas said. Jonas said I missed everything. But Jelani said, he was there for some stuff. Jonas, I was gone from the time Jonas was 11 years old to the time he was 19. And so for him, that's everything. So yeah, it was definitely, Lauren, it was all God in terms of why I could not win. I wasn't ready. Even when Obama was there, everybody would say, "Why are you mad at Obama?" No, I wasn't ready. I really, I was mad then because I wanted to go home. But as you look back, you have to know that if I'd have got out in 2016, I wasn't quite ready. I actually had to experience that loss as a part of my getting. And so all along, when the Supreme Court said no, and the Detroit News and Free Press printed, Kilpatrick is all out of options, and all the Detroit cats in the whole prison wanted to show me that headline. Haters, cold haters. Coming in, my guys was like, they gonna get out of it, but a couple of them, look, this is they put, because of course misery loves company. Right? And so a lot of people, they showed me that. I knew then that there was about to be a huge breakthrough.
So you mentioned breakthrough. That's it. I'm sorry.
I just wanted to ask, at what point of your incarceration did you make the spiritual connection?
On June the 9th, 2014. I went in on March 11, 2013. So a year in fighting and all that at Milan, and I got shipped in January to Oklahoma. And in that June, I was pretty much done. Because people here, my sons was really having a bad time at that period. My older sons moved out of the house. I talked about that in the book. I had to figure out from jail, prison, how to get them back home, how to get them back in school. They both doing well. Jalil's right now, his math, he graduated with his master's tomorrow. I mean, everybody's fine. Now, everything was in shambles. And so I went to the chapel, stumbled up in there, and I was just broken enough to receive the gospel. And God had a man there that was out of sight, who was a big old dude from Yukon, Oklahoma as well, Bruce Smith. Vietnam vet sergeant, did 2 tours. Everybody do 2 tours and now, y'all crazy. Y'all messed up. And so he was that guy, and he was just the right man to talk to me about Jesus Christ, because it couldn't have been soft. I couldn't have did no cream puff stuff right there. I was mad and angry, and I ended up on my knees crying like a baby, calling out for the Lord, and everything changed from that day forward. And then I got a job in the chapel. I ended up working at the chapel 6.5 years. The rest of the city, at whatever prison I was in, I went to the chapel.
Talk about that breaking process. That was actually where I was going to. I was finally broken enough to receive the message. And I realized just how much I wanted to be made new. Talk about that process of being broken. And I want you to go into depth about that, just to really hone in on the transformation and this renewal process that you endured and went through in jail.
I said in the beginning that transformation really begins with death. And the reason it begins with death is because if you don't kill it and something doesn't die, when things get good again, you're just going to. That's why you always hear about people in prison who, quote unquote, find religion.
Right.
They come there because they sad. They lost some stuff. They come to the church, but you figure out real quick, you can really live in prison. I mean, I know everybody thinks downtrodden all the time. No, but people play basketball. They do plays. You eat. You have friends. You're a GD, bicycle, blood, cricket, you find your people, you can do all kinds of stuff. You gamble. It's stuff you can do. You play flag football, so it's activity. So people, you will conform to the prison environment. And people, although they walk in there scared, because dudes looking at them, all that kind of stuff. After all that initial stuff is over, they run to the chapel, I got to get Jesus. Then they say, oh, this is cool. And you see them smoking weed, drinking, and hanging out. They say, it's all here, I'm good. Right? Because they didn't kill it. So they go right back. And I tell you what, most of those people, the reason why we have an 80% recidivism rate in America right now, within 3 years, people going back, is because they find it hard to live out here. We call it vacationing out here just to get back to where they really live. And so it becomes so comfortable that being incarcerated, you don't have the responsibility you got. It's hard to wake up every day and take care of kids and get phone calls and gotta be at a job and all that. You've been kicking it for 20 years, 10 years. So it takes a strong-minded individual. And those people who have been in here and been in that situation, it takes somebody with a different kind of mind to make it through that system and never want to go back and doing everything they possibly can. But in the breaking process, Kwame had to die. And I talk about that in there. He had to die. You know, you hear in the Bible, put to death the old man, mortify, deeds, all that kind of stuff. You know, it sounds good when the preacher talking about it. It don't feel good when it's happening. And you realizing that the dude that you thought had all the swag, was smart and gifted, he had all of this power and influence, he was a good dad, he defined himself as a good dad, he could provide. Every single point I've defined myself as turned out to be untrue in the moment of the work. And it's hard to look at that man in the mirror and say, you are nothing.
That's what I want to ask you.
And at that point, God always tell you, I gave you all that. You thought it was you. Nebuchadnezzar in the Bible, he said, look at all this I've done. Oh, look at all this I've done. And the Lord, a pagan king who didn't know God, said, oh yeah, I'm humble, and sent him out there with the wild beasts for 7 years. 7 times passed over him until he knew that heaven rules. Until you know that heaven rules, and you know, you're going to return. Why do people get clean for 6 years and then go back and start doing dope again? We call it addiction or something. No. People will return to what they're comfortable with if it's not dead. That's why when you ask, are you going to run for politics? No. Never say never. No, let me tell you something. It's a couple, I got a lot of nerves. I'm never going to sleep with a man. That's okay. I'm not.
Well, thank you.
No, but I'm saying, people always say never. I got about a list of about 15 things. I started with that, was y'all go, well, that's hard stuff. I'm not. I'm not stupid. There's some things that we have to declare over our lives. Yeah, I'm not doing that. And so, when he took that political life away from me, he killed it. And it's crazy, y'all, because I'm so not interested in politics. I've been around, they talk about stuff. I called Mike Duggan as soon as I got out. I said, man, I don't want your job. He was like, no. So I understand. But I was riding down the street here and I called him, but the life was over. So there was death to that life. It was just over. I can't explain it, but nothing in me inclined me that way. And that was a break-in too, because it's all I ever wanted to do. He took it away. And he gave me something else. And he gave me something that I declared to everybody who ever told me. Reverend Van, Bishop Shear, all of them, you gonna preach God's word, man. Y'all tripping. This is exactly what I was saying. Oh, y'all tripping, man. That's what you do. I don't do that. That's great. I'm talking stuff. And then Bishop now, he just be like, maybe you said, he'd remind me every chance he gets, what you doing up there? Where you going? You know?
But you know what? Like you said, if we all, especially men, for us to die or surrender is the last thing we want to do in life.
Yes.
But it's the first thing you have to do.
Yep.
The old self must die.
Gotcha. And the deeds of the old. Which is why we need forgiveness.
Right. Yeah.
You really do have to forgive yourself. You can't wait for other folks to forgive. You really got, and I think what people see, because there's humility that comes when you forgive yourself. Everybody thinks it's pride. It's the opposite. When you forgive yourself and you receive the spirit of forgiveness, you know that it didn't come from you.
Sure.
And so you just like, so I don't have to pump myself up. I don't have to go out there and do any of those things. I'm just happy. I wake up in the morning happy. And I didn't know what that was. I'll say this to you.
So we thought that you were happy before.
I'm telling you, because operating in that life.
Right.
I'm joking. I want to talk about that though,
Oh,
because
okay.
the perception is,
I was
why were
angry.
you? No. I'm talking about you were happy.
Okay.
What about? I'm talking about even being mayor. Were you happy then?
It was a role.
So you thought this is what you thought.
I was doing what I
Because
thought.
this is you don't even have happiness. Oh, well, you have happiness, but you have joy.
Sure.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's a difference, right?
That's guy.
Priceless.
Being
Exactly.
mayor of Detroit, Michigan, I used to say this all the time. I think it's the toughest job in politics. I think it's tougher than president, governor. Detroit, Michigan is a very pivotal place, and it's a convergence of so much stuff in America and province and Michigan service, money, corporations, and borders. It's huge, and it's a very stressful job. And I went from 285 pounds to 325. First time I ever had high blood pressure. First time they tried to put me on medicine and all kinds of stuff. I had a headache almost every day. But I can't come out and say, I'm really feeling bad. Oh, man, hey, how y'all doing? What's going on? Hey, man, what's happening, man? All right, what's up, Lloyd? Man, you good? Man, look at here. I just wanted to go to bed a lot of them days. I was wore out. I was at every crime scene. Listen, y'all don't do this no more. I'm mad at y'all about this too, just a little bit. If a blade of grass was higher than, I'm talking about 4 inches in this town, boy, y'all would be on the new Kwame, y'all come cut the grass. Man, I was driving down 7 miles, I've been back here 3-4 times, grass all over the place. Y'all ain't called Mike Duggan once. Y'all don't want to think about nothing. Something happened. I mean, anything in this city happened because I was yours.
Yeah.
Y'all don't feel that way about Mike. So whoever, no, I can see that. Y'all let him be mayor. I was your son.
Yeah.
Your nephew, your grandson, your brother. I was I'm gonna call Kwame. I'm gonna call Kwame. Kwame need to get over here. Kwame need to, well, look, y'all was having a conversation, and we was running trying to keep up with where we're supposed to be. I was worn out in this job, but it's the only thing I ever wanted to do.
Yeah, but I think her question, the media professional used to be extremely cocky. I've got this, even going to court. You know what I'm saying? That's what I think it appeared that you were happy and doing what you wanted.
Can I say something about that?
Kinda.
Because it's a convergence of that. Because I gotta say, when you 6'4", 300 pounds, you walk straight up with a suit on, and you black in America, the first thing is gonna be he's arrogant.
Yeah.
But the other thing though is, and let me say one more thing on that. We have a tendency people here, there's a lot of people who never met me before, ever. But if somebody you knew said something about me, you accepted it wholesale. And if 2, 4, and 7 said it, you accepted it wholesale. Even if you tried not to, you did. It got into your psyche and you believed it. And so I grew up amongst a generation of people with a grandfather, 2 grandfathers, my dad, all of them, is that when you're getting beat down, you stand up and fight. You don't look like you're getting beat down. Even if you hurt, we got the black man syndrome. We don't call out for help when we need help. We don't go to the hospital when we get sick. I mean, we got all kinds of problems and ignorance and issues. But that plays out when I'm losing, I can't look like I'm losing. When I was at Cass and we were losing to Chassis 32-0 in the city championship game, Coach Rose said, "You better hold your head up. Everybody walking this stuff, take your helmet up, hold your head." Everything was hold your head up, even though we getting whooped. But you stand up straight, and that looks like arrogance when it's a black man, especially. It's hard for humility to be the thing that you're saying about a black man on television. Unless he's like really just, he's got to be all the way poured out with this just abundance of emotion instead of just being. But the difference now is it's a spirit of humility. That's different than being humble. That's walking in the spirit that he gave you, and that's a different thing.
I want to ask you. You started out by using the term surrender. And
And you know now, like most of us who have learned what surrender really is that what happens is God He shows us ourselves, which is ugly to us based on what we've been hearing from the outside. And so God shows us who we really are apart from Him, even when we're professing to know Him, as you said. And surrender is a form of, like you giving up. And as you just said, most of us don't want to give up. But when we get to that point, and God had something for you, just like He had something for all of us, He kept working because there are people you could reach that most of us couldn't reach. And so He worked on you once you surrender. And I'd like for you to talk about that a little bit more because it's difficult to do that. And you see people in church under the impression that they have surrendered, but they really haven't. And you kind of touched on that as well. And surrender is, as Tony talked about, that's the first thing for us to really grow earnestly in Christ.
With all due respect, I stopped in here at 5 o'clock. My wife said she'd give me a little time. Tony said, my wife said, you better come on. I say, with due respect for and I wish you well, and we're going to continue to talk. I want to get a book, and Joe, if you will, since your wife's not here, you can stay. I love everybody. Right.
She might be here somewhere.
God bless you.
Over there, they over there.
Go ahead.
So,
Over here. Got
I
it
was
over
gonna say
here.
that.
I saw you back there now. I wasn't gonna say that.
Doing this?
Yeah.
I was gonna say that one of the problems that we have working with people here that I have experienced, when I talk about you, like now, people get upset with me because I support you, and I find myself feeling that it is not my battle. Which, like I know, like you're mine. You can always be mine. Okay? And that's just the way it is. If this is going to be the fight, this is going to be the fight. Regardless of what you did or what they said, that's just the way that it is. This, I'm not sure if anybody experienced this themselves. They say they go down to the fight. Okay, I'm down. Yeah.
What do you feel about that? I get what you're saying. What do you feel about that in terms of the controversy that comes with you? Because I mean,
it used to drive me crazy.
Yeah, I want to be on a real human level.
It used to drive me crazy because you got to understand that the first line of that vitriol is Jelani Jalili Jones. You think they mad you? They had teachers, administrators that treated them differently. They had coaches that called them boy on the football field and told them to get out and wouldn't let them play because they heard about their dad. There was so it's levels. And it was driving me crazy because you internalize all that as your fault. And I said used to because I believe we live in a world now that's becoming increasingly more unforgiving.
No question.
And our community, we forgive everybody else from outside our community, but have a real hard time forgiving one another. And because we get all of our information from outside our community, others are able to define us and therefore confine us. And so I was fighting this losing battle with, I did this, but I didn't do that. I never stole nothing. I was never charged with that. But that's what everybody said. I never had any kind of embezzlement, issues of public funds. Everybody continues to perpetuate that. Never in charge. So it's kind of like, wait a minute, you can't salad bar it. They just don't. So what you have to do is you ask for forgiveness, and I have to leave it right there. And I asked everybody, my sons, Freddie Prime included, y'all stop fighting people. Leave them where they are. Sometimes people argue for recreation purposes. They don't know how to do that. And so they fix their mind that they want to argue about something. Don't give it to them. And so, yeah, Lord, it hurt me. But now, I'm telling you, on a real human level, I've been so separated from this city. This blows my mind. I know y'all don't really like here. I'm gonna say this. I told my family the first couple of times I was here, I rode down Woodward, and I felt completely disconnected. So troubled by it that I was sad. I felt like I was in Cleveland, Philadelphia. I'm looking for like something like this is home. And I didn't feel it, Freddie. I called my dad from the car. Something wrong. I went back the next day. I got out and rode around for an hour.
Then you found Hot Sam and see him home.
No, that wasn't that time. That wasn't that time. Yeah, that was me. I was still making my way around. But I know why he did it, because now, after a year has gone past, how I engage the city is so much different. So I can love it without picking up the bus and carrying it. I can love people here. I can actually be excited to go to Detroit every time I get on the plane now, without having the burden of responsibility for the city. And so I engage it like y'all now. You know, I can look at it and say, love this and love that and go participate. But then I don't have the burden of I want everybody here to be okay. And that is a heck of a burden when people spitting on you. You know how much you love these people, but these people spitting on you. And they believe everything that they ever heard bad about you. And that was just a tough thing for me to go through. It was really, really hard. And the isolation, and I was exiled from this time. You know, they do that to the African leaders here. I was literally exiled. I remember in 2009, man, we worked so hard to get the NCAA Final Four here. Man, my pitch, this was, okay, I talk about that in the book.
You do.
The people on the city, I wasn't even coming. I'm sitting in Dallas watching the news. And there's people on there that I knew. I'm talking about I knew these people that were on the news talking. I hope he don't come here. I don't need him to come here. He need to stay out of Detroit. And I'm like, stay out of Detroit? You know, what is that? I mean, he needs to stay. We don't need him here. Well, and I'm like, hey, I know these folks. Well, this is what it is. And I was just in there, man, crushed. And then the chair of the NCAA committee, a man that I met 1 hour doing a presentation to try to bring the Final Four here, when I went in there and did my thing, he said, man, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Kwame Kilpatrick. So all I know about is he made a dynamic presentation, blah, blah, blah. He said something else, short on the news. And I said, a dude that I met for an hour said that. And people I know all my life said, we don't need him here. Get out. Y'all kick me up out of here. Listen, the divorce from Detroit was way more gut-wrenching than the divorce from my first wife. That one was like, I shouldn't say this, but it was, okay. No, Marcia's shaking her head. Okay, I won't say nothing. But the divorce from Detroit, I was the wife. Please, what are y'all doing? Please, no, take me back. I felt like that, you know, and so getting through that was the toughest thing. That was so hard. That was so difficult.
Kwame, at your lowest point, did you ever consider suicide?
Yeah.
I was going to get there. So he mentions that in the book about one of his.
I need to get this book.
I mean, right? All your questions gonna be answered. But it was important to just. I wanted you to actually talk about that because I feel like we are. And I don't know if anybody else can relate to this. That we are living in a time where there is so much suicide happening. It's like an epidemic of suicide.
It's a wicked spirit.
It is. I mean, but I want you to. Hold on one second. I want you to talk about that. They gotta buy it.
They gotta buy it. Like,
Yeah.
They gonna have it over there.
Yeah, it's over there, over there.
They gonna have it over there.
What I'm saying,
You gotta keep it in hot seconds.
everybody, you won't be able to shut me up.
No, we don't want to shut you up. We just want to put the books.
I'm gonna say,
You want to take their money.
can y'all say thank you for accountability?
Okay. So I want to talk about, no, I think it's important because, I think it's important to, because we're also here, when we're talking, when you have an opportunity to talk and have a conversation, an intimate setting like this, you have an opportunity to help someone or to evoke change. And so I want you to speak to that, that moment of suicidal thoughts, or just that darkest moment, and how you were able to get through that.
It's the most profoundly confusing trick of the enemy, suicide, because it's terribly self-centered. You got to think about that. Everything that's happening in the whole world of things happening is happening to you, and you think everything and everybody would be better off if you were gone. Most people don't want to hurt themselves. They want to cure something for other people. I became a suicide counselor while I was there. And I used to go sit with the guys that was in the tank. It was really interesting because I knew what was going on because I've been in this place. And I would be like, you really want to, what you want to do? You want to hang yourself? You know, we're going to go in there and find you, man. Your neck going to be up, man, come on, why would we see that? You got to talk to people about how they look when it happens. Because that's not what they're thinking about. They're not thinking about actually killing themselves. They're thinking about not being here anymore.
Yeah.
And so that moment for me was a very rational moment for me. It wasn't a moment where I was just like, I said, there's too much going on. My son's going crazy. We're running out of money. The insurance policy is about to go. I need to figure out a way to get out of here and to help everybody. And I ain't got to deal with this no more. I ain't got to deal with it. I said that sitting in a solitary confinement cell in a maximum security prison. And I sat on the edge of that bed and I was deadly serious. And when I got a phone call, I called Kwame and I told her, I said, how much is the insurance you pay them? Why are you talking like this? I said, you know what, hey, everything will be all right. You go ahead. Now I want to talk. And so if anybody that's ever been or know anybody that's been in solitary, you only get one phone call every 30 days. So you give your family that, and then they got 29 days to know what happens. Excuse me?
Why were you in solitary?
They had me in administrative SIG when I first got there. So there's two groups of people in SIG. There's people that got in trouble when they got there. Well, there's three groups. There's people that's just crazy. It's all get out when they got there. And there's another group that they say that you need protection on the yard. So they put you in there. And so it took me 5 weeks to get out of there because I was writing everybody, I don't need this. You know, they were telling me somebody's gonna kill me and all this kind of stuff on the yard. There'd be points for somebody to kill me, but these were all whites talking to me about what would happen when I got on the yard with whites. And so I told the warden, I said, Warden Curtin, listen, how many black folks out there? 1,500. I mean, whites, 200 something. Yeah, I'm good. You know, my mama be all right. Everything's okay. You know, everything's all right. And she did let me out, and I never went back except for issues. I went several times. I came home. That's a whole different thing. But it's in the book. So, but that moment sitting on the edge of that bed, I was really convinced that everybody, Detroit, I literally was thinking about Detroit. My family, my kids, I was absolutely convinced that everybody would be all right if I was just gone. My family was feeling the pressure, not just my son, my extended family, his mom, everybody was all pressure. People was losing their jobs, my cousin, all. And if I was just gone and had a funeral, I'd go with everybody would be all right and get back to normal. And so I couldn't figure out how to do it and get the insurance. That's the only thing that stopped me. That's the only thing that stopped me. I couldn't figure out how to make it. I needed to get to the yard and just go whoop up on somebody and let it stab me. So I couldn't figure out how to do it in that sale. And Carlita and them could still get the insurance money. And that was just all the crack I need. For 2 days later, everything had changed. But I had to experience, that wasn't number God and the Holy Spirit moving as well. When the fog comes off, you'd be like, I was in here tripping. Man, what's wrong with you? I mean, I was in there laughing, crying, laughing at myself. Like, it was my you stupid. But that's the weight of it. So many of these young people across America, if they could just get to the next day. It's a thing, it's a powerful thing. You could just get to the next day. I've watched men who tried to kill themselves come to the tank. I sit there with them all night talking to them, and the next morning they be like, Kwame, man, what else going on? They gonna kill? Man, you trying to hang yourself over there, man. Man, I was tripping. That spirit is such a heavy one. And that's what's killing people now in this world, because I'm telling you gotta shut that news off. Shut it off. Just practice it. If you did it for 30 days, I'm telling you, it would change your entire life. Go on the news back.
If you do anything for 30 days, it can become a good habit.
That's good.
And one thing I want to say is that I certainly do appreciate your change and what God is about to do in your life. Because one of the things that the image that you represented, right, as mayor and coming up, but now the new image that you will be portraying. And so he's going to do such great things for you, and I'm so glad that, and I don't know, I am one of the few people that met you when you were mayor, and with my business, and I'm so glad to have seen you again. We were this little small company that donated 10,000 balloons 10,000 whistles when you did the whistle day, or keep the kids okay, but God bless you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. If you can bring them over, I can do it while we ask the question.
Okay. And then we're going to prepare to close, but go ahead.
I don't know why I'm here, but now I do know why. I know what my purpose was of coming down. I'm a former resident of Detroit, graduated from high school, and college here. I practiced medicine in Saginaw. I'd like to make a comment. I'm not a fan of Donald Trump, but I think the greatest thing he did before he was in office was community assistance. And I applaud him for his motivation for it. I don't know, or whatever. I'm glad that happened. The core of Detroit has not changed. The periphery of it has. And each time I come here, I feel somewhat like an alien. But each time I come into the store, I know I'm back home. Around my people. And another thing I'd like to say, as I saw your rise in politics, I feared, as I do for other men of color who rise, and it's like, I was wondering, did you feel that pressure that at some point that this man had to do something, because Detroit was too black. We had the classic coming here. A lot of good positive things were going on in the administration. And one more question. When you were incarcerated, did the Nation of Islam come to you and approach you? You've done a lot of great things for our people. I was just wondering if you would comment on that. I know you are Christian.
Let me answer the last one first. Yes, the minister put the word out. I don't know if you know this, but I'm very close to Minister Farrakhan. He doesn't even see business now. I just went over his house and spent a great deal of time talking to him. I just think, as far as wisdom is concerned, I don't know of a wiser person that's walking. And if you ever get a chance to just sit up and kick it with him, you'll hear what I'm talking about, because he ain't got to say nothing about the word. Just walking you through things. And he was prophetic for me. He told me I would be doing this right here. I can say it now. He was the person who sat me down in 2009 at his house and said, "You're going to preach." And he said, "It's not going to be a Muslim. You need to go tell the truth about Jesus." He told me that. I said, "What? Okay." Now, I'm in my mind. You don't say it with the minister. You say, "Minister tripping." All up in my head, but he wasn't. I had to go back and let him know everything he said is true. And he had watched one of my sermons, which was amazing. When I got there, he watched the sermon I did over at Greater Rome.
And he said, you just keep telling me the truth. But when I got to the spot, I don't care what jail I was in, when I got out in the yard, even in the state, when the warden let me out, they was there as soon as I got out. The nation was right there, man. Listen, we got word. Mustafa, everybody had put the word out in the prison system throughout. So we got to see. Secondly, it would have been rough for somebody to do something with me. Just the love from Detroiters, and men, period, just real men from around the country, and the nation. It was just too much. And one guy, I mean, he took a real loss, man, because he wanted to make a name for himself. And I was begging him to leave me alone. Man, please, let's not go well for you, please. You know, he went, what? And it was just too much for him. So I just, that's why I say God he protected me in that place, and he used the nation too. Secondly, yeah, I knew that the city would be just like it is right now. I had a group of pastors in my basement, and I talked to them about what was about to happen, and y'all let these people run me out. And part of the reason, Tony, that I was upset with a lot of the pastors is because they was at that meeting. But I was too young to deliver that message to them at that time. And a lot of them was trying to be the black. It was an opportunity to get me out so they could be the black. And I said, right now, kill every one of y'all. You know, and so that message coming from me was arrogant.
One brother is in people think about the pressure and stress during the administration, the pitfalls, knowing that they're there and trying to avoid it coming at you from all sides. It's like, I admire you for your strength. Because that's what you personified from my perspective in Saginaw as I watch your movie.
I took $84 million out of Kwame Bank and put it in First Independence Line. The city's money. Y'all would listen. Kwame got $100 billion under management. That ain't nothing. That's not. They come back to the But I took that money out, the city's money, and put it in First Independence Spendings. It was the single largest deposit the bank has ever had. Still to this day. You would have thought I went out in Hart Plaza and declared war against the business. Several people came to my office. You gotta put the money back. You know, I was young Kwame. I ain't putting that. Y'all crazy. How you feel? I mean, how does that even bother you? What is that? This thing is gonna be everything. And Don Davis, he helped us do 36 parks. Now this city has been banking with Comerica for 100 years. 100 years. One deposit, Don Davis did 36 parks in our communities. So what y'all see, Farwell and all the parks. And it was that's the kind of banking relationships that billionaires have. And I looked at us as billionaires. Everybody, they talk y'all city down. I said, y'all did it on purpose. They talk the city down all the time about being broke and poor and all this, but you got $2 billion in the bank. You should move like a billionaire. Once I started understanding that, I got real dangerous. Because I didn't understand that my first 4 years. But you start understanding, wait a minute, we're not broke. Matter of fact, this is the third largest water department in the country, wastewater joint system. We're doing $1 billion in debt every year. I'm doing $400 million in debt for lunch. They had to take it. That water department is a GOAT. Matter of fact, now it's the most valuable water system in the world because of the source. You got the cleanest water source in the world. And that's why every year, this water system, y'all gotta get this, they win cleanest water in the world every year, American Water. They got the ozonation system, they got all the systems, they've been bonding for it. That's the best water system in the world, and you no longer control it. So you can't decide who gets to work on it. Now this is why I see, there are people who made their whole careers at that water department. Engineers, biologists, chemists, maintenance people. They've been out there 20, 30 years. They live on Grandma, and they live in Rosedale. They live in University District. They live in Russell Woods. Those jobs have been eliminated in the last 5 years. It was never about Kwame Kilpatrick, but I couldn't deliver that message. But the people that could were trying to figure out how they could get in on what was about to happen. And that is a conversation that the citizens of the city need to have without me. And then Donald Trump, lastly, listen, I know everybody got problems with Donald Trump. But then listen, if Jelani Janelle and George, they'd be here like, what problem y'all got? You know, perspective is something else, you know. And if you were dying, and Donald Trump walked in your hospital room and said, you know what, I got the cure here. You and your family would not hear nothing nobody said about that. We realize politically what he said, what he's done, and all that kind of stuff. But when I talked to Jared Kushner a week after I got out, and I'm talking to him on the phone, and he's talking different stuff, we having a conversation. I said, okay, Jared, why did y'all let me out? I've never met him. Never had a conversation with him. Still to this day, I've talked to him. This wasn't no greased up, no. This was all God. The people that went to Donald Trump, besides Pete Carmanos and Craig DeRoche, I didn't even know none of them. Alveda King, Alice Johnson, who Kim Kardashian got, she delivered she delivered. I never met her before in her life. She said, the Lord put you on my heart and let me let you out. Jared Kushner, out his mouth, said, I don't know. Our hearts were just turned towards you. I was praying every day for 225 days, Proverbs 21:1. The heart of the king is in the hand of the Lord. And like the rivers of water, he can turn it whichever way he please. You said in your word, Lord, that the king's heart is in your hand. That means Trump's heart is in, turn his heart towards him. Turn his heart towards me. Send release to them. Out of Trump's, walk me right out the front door. I told him like Silas and Paul did in Acts 16. I don't want to walk in here on CNN and walk out the back door. No. Walk me right out. I want to be on CNN going out. And he did it. And I still can't trace it back to any one person. He gets all the glory for it. And if it would have been Obama, everybody in here would say, he hooked you up. That was your boy. This is happening. Obama would have got the glory. And I just had to sit there for a few more years because God won't have it.
That's good.
That's good. That's just like God. And that's what is so beautiful about Kwame's story. And as we prepare to close, and also in this book, is that every page of this book, every turn of this book, I saw the hand of God working. And I think it's so interesting that, you know, we give God glory and we say God is good when things are going well. But it's so important that we see the hand of God moving, even in trial and tribulation and even in affliction. And I heard you say before that it was good that you were afflicted. And so as we prepare to close, I want to read this last thing in the book here. Through the harsh pressing of the physical and emotional conditions of incarceration, I rediscovered my passion for service. God has filled me with the desire to not only preach and teach his word, but also to serve his people. I crave to rightly divide the word of truth, reversing the damaging effects of wrong teaching, and seeing men's hearts transformed. At the same time, as the Spirit works, I am able to witness the tremendous changes in their relationship with themselves, their families, and with God. This is the best work I have ever experienced. And so I am happy to have an opportunity to meet and sit with not Kwame of Detroit, as he puts in the book, but with Kwame Malik Kilpatrick. And so thank you for being so candid in conversation and taking just a moment to share the truth of your journey back to destiny with us. Thank you. And thank you all. So he has books available. He will sign them. And that's it. Thank you all.
Thank you.
We have one thing, like, this where's gonna go first. This how it's going.
I come over there, so. Okay, but they bring them over there. So. They already in line, right? Ready to eat.